This video is brought to you by Devout Decals, makers of reusable Catholic art for your home altar, your bedroom, and your home classroom.
What I have for you next may very well be a useful reflection, something to meditate on when preparing to do an examination of conscience. It comes from Padre Pio. A couple of weeks ago, I brought to you his parts of his letters to his religious superior, talking about his really true great fear, that he would lose the love of God. Here now, he concludes that thought of what he would rather have happen to him than to lose the love of God in his life. To my physical weakness are added the severe struggles of the spirit. The darkest clouds continue to gather in the sky of my poor soul. Jesus is with me, it is true, but how painful, my Father, is the trial that exposes the soul to the risk of offending the divine spouse. But may God live forever and ever. My trust that I will conquer and be victorious, and the strength to fight on, do not lessen. In my present state, in which the merciful God, in his infinite wisdom and justice, has decided to lift the veil and show me my hidden faults, and all their evilness and ugliness, I see myself as so disfigured that my own clothing seems to be horrified by my vileness. This has happened to me because the dark picture of my hidden faults that I am viewing has not been created by human hands. If this were so, the soul could easily depict itself as free from blame, but by God, who at this moment executes the work a little in the manner of a judge who allows no appeal. In this state, no creature, neither human nor angelic, is able to place itself between the poor soul and God the judge, the one who has produced the dark picture. Oh, the happy days of my life, when my most sweet good was with me and lived inside my heart. Where have they gone? I am weary of life. O God, leave the way free for me to lament the bitterness of my heart. O most clement Father, I do not wish to remember now the faults of my youth that you have already forgotten. Ah, let me weep, my God, over my iniquities. It would have been much better for me if I had perished in my mother's womb before any human eye had seen me. Come down with me, Father, into the secret parts of my soul, full of so much imperfection and misery. I am not able to reveal them, but they are numberless. So they seem to me, and they would certainly be repugnant to any person if they were to be described, and would seem to constitute a rejection of the God of purity. I find nothing that might lessen the just anger of God, unless one can please his heart, and I cannot find the way to do this. I see that all I have collected for him and given to him has been thorns. This is not merely my opinion. Reality shines out in all its clarity. I try to find a way out of this sorrowful state, but I am overcome by the evil which I do not wish to do, without knowing it and without wishing it. Ah, where can I hide from the thunderbolts of a God who thunders and strikes? But enough of my crying out. It is good for those to keep quiet, who have the duty to keep quiet and who are already completely overcome. Am I not perhaps the most unfortunate of all men? I feel the Lord's hand lie too heavily on me, and it is greatly getting steadily heavier. This I deserve. My iniquities have made the measure run over. But I hope that he who has shown such mercy towards me until now will continue to be merciful on me. Alas, my Father, what will become of us when we will appear before this God judge of ours and are asked to account for our actions? If such fear is experienced now, through a simple lifting of the veil that had hidden our faults from our eyes so that we might wonder at their ugliness, what will become of us when we must appear before God to bear his severe gaze? Each of my soul's shortcomings, tiny as it may be, is like a sort of pain that pierces my heart. I have a fear which penetrates right into the deepest part of my spirit and crushes all my bones, of offending even in minimis that God who rejects me and persecutes me always and everywhere. This fear I have, even though I see clearly that I will never see the same God seated as absolute monarch at the center of my heart. God knows very well the reason he allows his elect to fall like this. If the only benefit from this were the mortification of my soul, that would be a great thing. I am writing to you again to tell you that I continually ask for many graces for your soul in my prayers and in the Holy Mass, but I ask especially for the holy and divine love. It is everywhere for us. It is our honey, my dear Father, and with which all our affections, actions, and sufferings must be sweetened. My God, my good Father, how happy is the eternal kingdom when his holy love reigns there. How blessed are the powers of our souls when they obey so wise a king. He does not allow grave sins to dwell in the land under his obedience, in his own state, nor any affection for the lightest of sins. It is true that he does many times allow sins to birth on the frontiers of this land, But this is done in order to train the land's virtues in war and make them courageous. He also allows spies, which are venial sins and imperfections, to move about here and there in his kingdom, but this he allows only to make us realize that without him we would fall prey to our enemies. The fear of offending God once again makes me shiver, racks me with pain, and agonizes me. I fear my heart, which is unfortunately ignorant of what is truly evil. I am firm in my purpose and resist being influenced by anything I am sure of. But I fear some surprise move from my heart, that it will allow itself to be dragged along without my depressed will knowing anything of its change. Because of this I suffer a final sentence, fearing that I may have transgressed the command of obedience or have displeased my God, even in the slightest way. I, however, do not ask to be freed from this tribulation, but I ask that I might be freed from offending God. The thought that I might not be in grace in the eyes of God, the doubt that I might have abused the holy sacraments, that I might not have dealt with holy things in a holy way, that I might not have confessed myself fully and well, is a thorn that continually lacerates my heart. I no longer know to which saint I should dedicate myself or what means to use. I do not ask Jesus to remove this tribulation. No, I only ask not to offend him, and I ask a little light to understand whether this be a punishment for my unfaithfulness. Knowing whether one works for the glory of God or gives him offense is more painful than death itself. My Father, how hard is it to undergo a trial where there is no glimmer of light or comfort? If one could at least know that everything was working for the glory of God. If only I knew that this is the case, but even hell on this earth would be very sweet to me. But may the will of God be done. There has been no let-up at all in the furious battle. It follows in regular path, of course, but pursues me and always marches forward. My God, when will I be able to rest while peacefully in you? When will this nail at least be removed, which breaks my heart and makes a hole in my head, so that I might know that in all this hell I do not offend you? My God, I would be ready to suffer 1,000 hells of this type, as long as a glimmer of your light would enter my mind and confirm that in all this I do in fact love you. Who could, my Father, lay bare the tremendous miseries of my spirit? I feel that I die in every instant. I seem to vacillate in every moment, and yet I suffer death in an infinite number of times before offending God with open eyes. What alone grieves me in certain moments is not being certain, if at the first assault of the enemy I was ready to resist him. I believe on examining myself now that I would prefer death rather than intentionally offending my dear Jesus, even a single sin, however light. But I cannot understand how these fears and discomforts can exist in a heart that would prefer to die rather than to sin deliberately. Amidst these afflictions which my heart suffers, I feel greater trust in God, and I am so full of my sins that I endure moments of continual torment. The only comfort that remains to me in the midst of this sorrow, which I would call almost infinite, is to weep. Weeping offers me both comfort and relief. May your faith again illuminate my intellect, your charity warm this heart shattered by the sorrow of offending you in the hour of trial. My whole person is consecrated to Jesus, and I feel myself bound to him by a double bond, as a Christian and as a priest. For precisely this reason I tremble at the mere thought of this double bond that might be loosened at any moment. Could such a bond be broken, or, what is worse, could it ever be broken without one's knowing it, whilst being certain even that it remains unbroken, with a certainty akin to that of God's existence? I feel the depths of my spirit answer that this could never happen, unless one become something awful, like the originator of heresy. Do you fear losing the love of God as much as Padre Pio? To be honest with you, I probably don't. It's worth reflecting on in our lives, every single one of us. Our love and devotion to our Lord should be supreme over everything else. And so, let us take today Padre Pio's words to heart, use them in our lives, and perhaps be moved to go to confession and make a good confession because of the very real possibility that we will lose the love of God in our lives if we haven't already. I hope you found this useful today. Let me know in the comments how you felt about this, and as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.